We've been waiting and waiting and waiting for this opportunity. It has finally come around. Will Hobbs, the Book of Hobbs, has determined he is the next contender for the TNT Championship. Is he going to win it on Wednesday night Dynamite? We're going to talk about that and a lot more on today's episode of WrstlXtra. Stay tuned.
Yo, this is WrstlXtra. I'm your boy, A Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate, joined by my trios team, the Real House of Black, Mex, the WrestleManiac, if you will.
Yes.
And the professor that is Gerard Bonner. We are coming off the back of Revolution, all things AEW. It's going to be an AEW heavy one today. But of course, before Revolution even aired on Saturday evening, we had the face of the Revolution ladder match where we saw, as Mex said, the Powerhouse Hobbs pick up the brass ring from the top of the ladder. Gerard, I'm gonna go to you first.
Okay.
We saw the match on Dynamite. What did you think of the match? How did you see it going? Were you surprised, or was it what you expected it to be and the winner to be?
I thought it was a very solid match. We even got introduced to a new AEW superstar, the masked man whose name I can't think of, but I was like, oh, Commander, right? He was like incredible, the things he was doing. So, that's a weird way to introduce somebody with just, no introduction. Boom, here he is. But the match was great. It really could have gone a lot of different ways. I'm pleasantly surprised that Powerhouse Hobbs won this match. Normally, when you have the big powerhouse in the match, they usually don't win the ladder match. There are rare occurrences. I think about Kane winning the Money in the Bank ladder match years ago and Wardlow last year, but Wardlow was like running super hot. So for Powerhouse Hobbs, who has not been on TV much, we've been getting a vignette here and there about the Book of Hobbs and things like that. I thought this was great. And given the, let's just say, hot potato nature of the TNT Championship, it is completely plausible that the Book of Hobbs could add a championship chapter to it this Wednesday night.
Mex, what are your thoughts on that possibility of the chapter of Championship Hobbs?
I mean, they have to do it, or AEW is going to hear my voice. They're going to get the wrath because, like, this championship, firstly, was brought back to life under Samoa Joe. The whole King of TV shtick has been brilliant. Darby Allin had it for a stint; he was great. And now they are kind of getting back into that a bit of obscurity that we saw at the top end of last year with the Sammy Guevaras and Scorpio Skies, and we just don't really know what's happening. Now, the good bit of continuity is that these three men, it's kind of when, this is back to original kind of status from a couple months back. Right. I think was it Full Gear where these guys had a triple threat match for the TNT title where Samoa Joe won it.
Yes, that's right.
And even then we were thinking, Wardlow's going in as champion. This is a good way to maybe get the title on Hobbs in a triple threat, so-and-so person doesn't need to be pinned and all of that kind of stuff. They chose not to do it there. Hobbs has been away writing the Book of Hobbs this whole entire time. We haven't really seen much of him. He's been in the trenches, he's been fasting, he's been praying, and now it's like he's kind of re-emerging now as just a whole nother new beast completely. Coming to the ring with the good word in his hand and leaving it on his steps. Like the Book of Hobbs is really something. I hope I can get a Kindle version from Amazon or something.
Audio book.
He's got the powers. He's got the powers right now, and like you said, the great performance in that ladder match, and from there he's gone into the Revolution. He wasn't on the card, but he's sitting in the rafters. He's got the ring that he won, and he's basically taunting Joe and Wardlow, whoever is next. Wardlow beats Joe for the TNT title, and it's like, oh, okay, I didn't really expect that. Again, it's all been, kind of woven in the story they've been telling, but it's literally like, he looks up, he eventually finds Will Hobbs in the crowd, and Will Hobbs is telling him 3 days, bro. That's all you've got with this thing. 3 days, and then I'm coming for that title. So listen, Will Hobbs winning it at this point, Powerhouse Hobbs, it's the decision that needs to happen. I don't know where that leaves Wardlow. And for someone that I had I was quite invested in Wardlow. Right now, I don't really care where it leaves Wardlow because I think that's their own problem that they've botched how they moved with Wardlow. But you don't miss this opportunity with Hobbs again. I think before he kind of evolved into Powerhouse Hobbs and you're still Will Hobbs, maybe what's that era called? The pandemic era. He was opportunity on the TNT title. And then I think, again, like you said, in Full Gear, he had opportunity. This is probably about the third opportunity or so he's had. Like, it's time. It's time to make it happen here. And, let him kind of, have his own Samoa Joe-esque run with it, or like a Miro-esque run with it. Definitely. He's been doing a whole load of nothing, but he's still been warm, man. I think the fans want this now.
So here's the interesting thing. As we know, this is the Face of the Revolution ladder match. We've seen these ladder matches before. I think the Casino Royale was the first one. We saw what's the big guy? I completely forgot his name.
Brian Cage.
Brian Cage,
oh, yes.
That's the one. Brian Cage was the first one to win it. Scorpio Sky then won the first Face of the Revolution. As you mentioned, Wardlow won the last one as well. They've all had chances at the TNT Championship, and in the immediate match that they had from winning the ladder match, none of them have won. I like to call this match the face of the Nevolution because no one ever wins the championship.
I thought Wardlow won last year.
But here's the thing. So with both Scorpio Sky and Wardlow, they have both become TNT champions eventually.
But it was shortly after. I got you. So it wasn't that first match.
It wasn't that first
match.
Oh,
that's right. Because Scorpio Sky was it. That's right.
Scorpio Sky won it.
That's right.
A year, almost to the day, a year and 2 days after he won that Face of Revolution ladder match.
And then Scorpio was the champion when Wardlow won, and he beat Wardlow.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
That's right. And Wardlow won it. I think it was about 3 months after he won the ladder match. So there's an argument. You can kind of argue that people become TNT champions, but it's not directly off the back of winning that ladder match. So there's this whole obscurity now. So as Mick's already said, Wardlow defeated Samoa Joe. Does Wardlow have a TNT championship reign for 4 days and lose to Hobbs? Does Hobbs have to wait almost a year to become the TNT champion eventually? Like, this is, for me, I'm not convinced that Hobbs wins on Wednesday. I don't see it happening because the biggest thing is Wardlow being champion for 3 days. It just wouldn't make sense. If it was still Samoa Joe's champion, I'd be a lot more, optimistic, confident Hobbs winning. This, I don't know. I think we're going to get a repeat of what we've had before.
Yeah, I think where I'm a little more hopeful is not so much because of the Face of the Revolution match as much as we've seen this hot potato with a TNT Championship in 2023 alone. I mean, we've gone from Samoa Joe to Darby Allin, back to Samoa Joe, now to Wardlow. That's 4 different champions, and we are just entering month 3 of 2023. Okay, so in terms of whether or not this will be a short title reign, I believe Darby Allin's last reign was like 4 or 5 weeks. We haven't seen that many title matches out of Samoa Joe since he beat Darby Allin once again. So that's where I'm like, it's plausible that Wardlow doesn't retain because we've been waiting all this time for Powerhouse Hobbs. I think the time that Powerhouse has been away has been long enough to get the idea of Teen Taz out of us, the Ricky Starks piece out of us. He comes back fresh. He looks great. He comes back super powerful. I think he's going to have a great match with Wardlow for sure. I'm just here, and this is the other question. The other question is, do we and does the company believe in Wardlow enough as champion? The TNT Championship run that he had was middle of the road at best. It was certainly not nearly as memorable as his chase to the championship. So it makes me wonder, will he be that guy, or will Powerhouse Hobbs be able to say, no, I'm the guy, and then start a good program between Powerhouse Hobbs and Wardlow? Because again, the chase for Wardlow is far more exciting than actually being champion.
But I think for me, this is almost like a second chance for AEW to kind of redo the whole Wardlow thing. Obviously, his run was kind of marred, especially at the start of it, by the whole MJF thing and MJF disappearing, and then that kind of left Wardlow kind of in no man's land and all that kind of stuff. And then we had the run that we had, which wasn't great. Would it be a wrong move for AEW to put the belt on Hobbs with Wardlow only having a few days, and then where does that leave Hobbs? So I guess the real question really is, who do they believe in more, Wardlow or Hobbs?
Well, let's also throw this in there. You just mentioned a name which just kind of triggered something. What if Wardlow loses this so he can enter the world title picture against MJF? Because to me, now that Bryan Danielson seemingly is out of the championship picture, there needs to be a new number one contender. And it seems like Wardlow, given all the craziness that MJF has been doing, they need somebody to at least be able to stand up to him and potentially shut him up. Who better than Wardlow? The history's already there. And now to fight for a championship, that seems to be like a better money move, to get Wardlow out of the mid-card picture, basically, and bring him into the world title picture, which I think watching his run to the world title would be very interesting. Not sure that he'd win it, but I think he'd make a very viable opponent for MJF as opposed to spending more time as TNT champion.
So to Mex, do you think then there was point in putting this TNT Championship on Wardlow?
I don't. I really don't know what they've done here. Now, obviously, the other thing is Ring of Honor has just become a thing, and they probably want Joe to focus his energy and give his expertise over there, which is fine. But why didn't you just wait till this week? Like, he defends against Wardlow, then Wardlow can, okay, like, Joe's got the better of me. I can regroup. I can go off and have this run and start making that beeline towards MJF and that world title, which I do think we're probably going to get somewhere along the line. Samoa Joe can then drop the title on Wednesday night to Hobbs, which I think is very much akin to the old, the older statesman putting over the younger talent sort of thing, with the similarities between them as well. And then he can just go off into the ROH sunset and just be done or do whatever he's doing over there. And then Will Hobbs can concentrate in the TNT picture. Like, the fact that they won, even if Will Hobbs isn't to win, the fact that they were happy with Will Hobbs pinning Wardlow or Wardlow pinning Will Hobbs when they are like, one in the same, about the same level, neither of them need this loss. Like, neither of them. So I just don't understand why you want to kind of create this situation. They're not going to do a dusty finish. They rarely do. So I don't know how they're getting themselves out of this one. I mean, I hope it's with a Hobbs win, and then all we have to do is, offer some, condolences to Wardlow, because it's a hard time. It's hard being him right now. I don't know what's going on. But and if Wardlow wins, if Wardlow retains, then you're like, well, you've just built up the whole Hobbs stuff. Like, when is that going to pay off? Is that going to pay off? Like, there's just a lot of questions here. Hobbs is in a good position, but there's just a lot of questions here.
Right. And in a way, for me, like, no one comes out better, or whoever loses,
it's a knockback, like a serious knockback.
What do you do with them afterwards? In the eyes of a Hobbs win, Hobbs becoming TNT champion. Obviously, also at Revolution, the first match on the card, we saw Ricky Starks defeat Chris Jericho. Ricky Starks is on a hot run. Ricky Starks and Hobbs obviously also have, history. Do we see, could that be where we're going? Or if not, what then happens with Ricky Starks from here? Where does he go?
I think Starks has been in this picture with Jericho and JAS, and I definitely hope that's done now.
It was great, but lasted too.
Yeah, like he got 2 good wins over Jericho. The pay-per-view match, it wasn't a typical kind of fast-paced pay-per-view match opener sort of thing, but it was fast enough. They paced it well, they got through what they needed to do, and they got out the way. And they literally just brought out Christian and Jungle Boy straight afterwards.
Right.
It's like, do what you need to do and go, sort of thing. So yeah, I think if Hobbs is to win, that is, an obvious direction that they can go somewhere down the line, him and Ricky Starks. And I would like to see Ricky Starks kind of get his win back from Will Hobbs and becoming champion. But yeah, if Will Hobbs is to win here, like, we don't need Starks approaching him next week. Like, let him cook for a bit, let him get some wins. And then somewhere else down the line, we can see that match happen again.
Gerard, what are your thoughts on where Ricky Starks can go from here?
Well, I think, they've been visiting and toying with Ricky Starks in the world title picture, obviously getting him that shot against MJF, shortly after MJF wins the title. These big matches with Jericho. This is going to sound crazy. I think he's not in the TNT title picture. I think he's in the world title picture. And I think this is now an opportunity to get him wins against, because you don't go from Jericho, a former world champion, MJF, the current champion, just down to the TNT title. I think you have to stay in that space for us to really begin to view you as world championship material. So, I think it's just whoever's kind of the next big person that they need him to get into a battle with, which I think there are a few names that are potentially out there. So, yeah, I don't think he needs to revisit him and Powerhouse Hobbs. Certainly no time soon. Like, if they're going to revisit each other, let Powerhouse Hobbs hold the title for 200 days. Then we're having a conversation. But no, not anytime soon. Let Powerhouse Hobbs have his set. Let Ricky Starks go in his lane. Let them both be great. And if they're going to collide again, maybe in 6 months to a year. But no time soon.
In 6 months to a year, that's probably when Will Hobbs will actually have the TNT Championship.
Oh, wow. You are convinced this is not going to happen tomorrow night. Wow. Okay.
Wow. I'm just going by the facts. I'm just going
by
the facts.
Somebody's got to be the first to break this streak. Why not Powerhouse Hobbs?
But this is the thing. This is exactly it. Like, you can't give us something like this and, not have someone break the streak, because then, like, at this point already, I'm already thinking that this is a nothing match, the casino chip or this Sonic ring thing. Like, it's just a nothing match. Like, so yeah, Hobbs is a great candidate to break the hoodoo and actually make people sit up like, wow, the person that won the Revolution ladder match actually went on to become champion. So next time the Revolution ladder match comes around, we're all, glued eyes to the screen and, waiting to see what's happening here. Can this materialize into something again?
That's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. So we mentioned Ring of Honor, of course, with Joe being the current TV champion. We saw the debut of Ring of Honor's new weekly show. We thought it was going to be 1 hour. They gave us 2. Well done. Thank you very much. We're expecting that to be the usual thing. Gerard, give me your thoughts on the whole thing with Ring of Honor, the matches, the presentation. How did you find the whole first edition of this new weekly show?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. If anybody watched Ring of Honor in their previous day, the production made some improvements toward the end, but for the most part, the production was not the best. And then my other gripe with the old Ring of Honor was always that it was syndicated. So there was never this one spot where all the wrestling fans could come at one time and watch. And that's such an antiquated way to present wrestling. So for AEW to now present Ring of Honor in great lighting, great production, a wonderful sound stage, and then we get not a 1 hour show, but a 2 hour show that actually makes it on par with a SmackDown, with a Dynamite, you know, and puts it above Rampage. Because Rampage is just a 1 hour show, and we certainly were expecting 1 hour. So it was great, great action, a great way to start this new Ring of Honor space. I'm so happy for Ian Riccaboni and my guy Caprice Coleman, you know, back together, the voices. I'm glad. I think having those voices there to navigate people through Ring of Honor reminds us, no, this is Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
It's not Ring of Honor 2.0, you know, it's not like the WWE version of ECW. This is Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
And we waited a year for this. So thank you for making it worth the wait. You know, we got fantastic matches. A lot of wrestlers who look like us are represented in Ring of Honor very, very well in that first show, including AR Fox being in the main event for a world title. How awesome is that, right? Like, so they're giving us great action. They're giving us great lead up to the Super Card of Honor coming at the end of the month. And 2 hours gives them much more time to do it than an hour show every week. So I'm a massive fan of this new Ring of Honor. I hope they continue to give us this great action leading up to the big pay-per-view.
Max, do you think that all the action or the interaction, even, you know, the outside of the ring or post bell, before the bell, was enough to kind of get you excited for Super Card of Honor?
Obviously we're still some weeks out, so I think, you know, there's a lot of time to kind of build to that as well. I'm planning to go to Super Card of Honor whilst I'm out there, so that'll be good. I've never been to a Ring of Honor show before.
You're gonna enjoy it.
Yeah, I enjoy it every time I watch them, but yeah, it's just the going part has been tricky. With Ring of Honor, one thing obviously right now, which I think it's obvious that why they're doing it, and I think anyone that's kind of criticizing them, like, just come on, give him a break. Like, it's obviously AEW heavy right now in terms of people that we've seen over there. There is like a stream of people, it looks like, that are going to be permanently moved over to Ring of Honor, but there will still be the people that go back and forth to give it that star power and, you know, give them some extra time to get some reps in and stuff, which I think is cool. But yeah, I like you know, Gerald was saying, you can see the production has gone up. There's money in Ring of Honor now. It's not looking like what it looked like before. Which I mean, to extent, I liked a bit of the darkness and dinginess, but I'm here for the production value. I felt it looked a bit NXT-ish. Which I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Maybe purists will think it's a bad thing, but I guess that's just the way you produce wrestling shows these days, televised ones anyway, or ones that are going to be streamed. Like I said, I was pleasantly surprised at the 2 hours instead of the one. The one critique I have of how it was produced, the first show, there seemed to be a lot of cuts. Like, maybe like when they filmed it, they just filmed matches. So then when they were showing us, they just like showed a match card. Oh, this is the next thing. Took off the match card, and then someone walks out. Like the show didn't really seem like very woven together. Which, you know, I'll wait and see, you know, in the weeks going forward if it changes or if there's a particular reason why that happened. But you know, early days. It's good to have another wrestling show again. Where we're gonna find the time to watch all of this, I don't know. But it's good to have another show to kind of watch and, you know, see some new characters and stuff from.
Yeah, for sure. I you know what? I'm not necessarily expecting the way it's cut and the production to change much over time. As we've seen with Dark, for example, and as we quite often you know, evaluate AEW in general. We kind of see it as almost like a well-produced indie show. So I think we're going to see a very similar thing. I doubt it's going to be any different. We might, you know, in the same way you were saying that you liked, you know, the older Ring of Honor, the partly because of that dark and dingy kind of almost low budget type of style. I think we'll probably grow to love that same thing with this production now as well. But going back to what Gerard said about, you know, the representation that we saw, obviously AR Fox in the main event, and obviously also we saw Willow Nightingale. Willow Nightingale had a match against Lady Frost. Great match, quite a quick match, but at the same time, you know, this is AEW. Ladies don't get a lot of time. We're used to it. But at the end of it all, of course, Willow then made it known that she wants to face Athena for the Women's Championship. Now, what surprised me is that match is happening next week. I was hoping for it to be a Supercard of Honor match. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? And what happens next week between these two ladies? Go on, Gerard. You want to talk? Go on.
No. I'm thinking it through, and this is again one of the challenges that we've talked about before: the art of storytelling. Now I know you want to get people to tune in next week,
of course,
but there needs to be some ways to get us to, because here's the thing: if we get Athena and Willow Nightingale next week, or this week, right? What is the leading thing for Supercard of Honor for the Women's Championship? Right now, there does not appear to be another leading candidate besides Willow Nightingale. And quite frankly, I would love the opportunity to watch whatever banter could happen in the next 3 to 4 weeks between these two to build this match and really make it something special. Now, they could, of course, just always have a match and then turn around and somehow it has a crazy finish or whatever, and they end up, running it back at Supercard of Honor. That's a possibility. But as of right now, it doesn't look like they have given us additional women in Ring of Honor for us to say, okay, well, if not her, then we have this one, or then we have that one. We haven't heard anything from Mercedes Martinez. So I don't even know if she's still associated with Ring of Honor at this point. She's never gotten a rematch or anything. So I don't know. I wish this wasn't this week. I wish it was at Supercard of Honor, because both Athena, Willow, and the ROH Women's Championship deserve to be on that large of a platform, because we haven't really seen much of the ROH Women's Championship except for last night on Dark, right? For these championship proving ground matches, as they're calling. So I would like to see that happen at Supercard of Honor. They better make this really good. It's a tough spot this soon, though, because you've got Athena, who's been really doing work as a champion. You've got Willow, who has been on the come up. The idea of seeing these title matches is at least to be able to believe that the challenger has a real fighting chance. You know what I mean? And Willow's really good, but I don't think they've given us a chance to let Willow cook so we could go, this is her time. So I'm unsure.
Mix your thoughts.
Yeah, Willow is crazy over. Like, I knew she was over, innit? And when she even comes on Dynamite and stuff, you can see the crowd are progressively getting into her, but generally it's a larger crowd at Dynamite. This one in Ring of Honor, where it's a bit more of a confined, smaller crowd. She comes out and that place is electric. Like, they all love it, they're all singing along. Like, it's literally, I've compared this so many times, it's Bailey at NXT.
Right.
Yes.
Like that is her, like, sort of thing. It's that same kind of energy. And from that, some would say that's enough to, put the title on her, sort of thing. But like Gerard is saying, I would have liked her to say, just the promo should have maybe been like, I've got my eye on Athena. It's not like, she basically said, like, I've won like 3 matches, I want the champion. And it's like, I don't know if it works that way, but she said, I'm coming, like, I'm feeling good, or whatever the case is. I'm getting wins, I want some more wins, and then I've got my eye on Athena and stuff. And then that's how you slowly start building to her and Athena, maybe at Supercard of Honor. Just like Gerard said, it's like, if they do this match now, there's no like rematch or anything like that, who are they going to bring in for the women's champion Athena at Supercard of Honor? They're most likely going to have to drop someone from AEW into Ring of Honor, you know, a mid-cardish name, maybe. I don't want to name anyone, but like, yeah, someone like that can kind of be a big figure, but in Ring of Honor to have a clash with Athena. Because otherwise, yeah, they're pretty much still developing that division. But yeah, to see Willow get a good response there, and then Athena, it's like she came out and like, oh yeah, Athena's the champion over here. Like,
right,
2 black women, nice, like,
right.
So yeah, I hope they just book it right.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy thing, you know. We talk about this, you know, the lack of women that are available in Ring of Honor, and you know, the only female that has been on every Ring of Honor card is Willow. And then the champion is also, you know, obviously Athena, who is also black. It's crazy to think that there are only 2 women in this division, and they're both black. That's crazy. It's bad that there's only 2, right. But it's great that they're both black. You know, so for me, I think it should have been a thing of, or one way they could have done it very easily, to both build Willow, you know, in the build up to a match at Supercard of Honor, is probably have like a women's tournament, like a simple, you know, 4, maybe 8 ladies at the most, you know, just to see who then faces Athena at Supercard of Honor. That would have been a great way. It would have given Willow, you know, matches in the weeks of, leading up to the pay-per-view or to the event. But no, we're getting a match this week. I don't really want to see the, you know, disqualification maybe, or you know, a no contest, and then we get, just give it to us like straight away. Give us lead up to Supercard of Honor. Athena maybe, you know, attacking Willow or interfering in matches and stuff like that. That would have kind of made it a bit more made a bit more sense. I'm not too sure where this match is gonna go. If it's an ending, you know, Gerard would be correct with like, who then are you gonna bring through? Right. But there's time. Things can be done. Let's not put the nail in the coffin already. We've got time. We'll see what happens.
Right.
We'll see what happens. The other thing that we wanted to talk about as well is we saw Keith Lee. He's made his return to AEW. He's been in a couple of matches. Got a big win over Strickland and his Mogul affiliates. With the Natural Dustin Rhodes, what did they call themselves again? Naturally
limitless.
Naturally
limitless. Yeah. Quite easy name. It rolls off the tongue a little bit. It's all right. It's cool. But recently, Keith Lee had an interview and had some interesting comments. It was something that he said a while ago. I think it was on the Jericho's podcast. And he kind of reiterated or made more mention of it in a more recent one, where he was saying that there are wrestlers, black wrestlers specifically, who are told to speak a specific way. As we know, Keith Lee has this whole thing of, talking very intellectually, uses the big words, indubitably, whatever the word is. He loves that word. But, he was given the side eye quite often or told, maybe to tone it down. He was even told by Vince McMahon that he sounds too intellectual. Now, was that, dare I say, racial in some way? Or, could it have been something else? Gerard, what do you think about this whole thing of, us being told that we have to speak a certain way in order to kind of, appease the crowd or get ourselves over?
Well, I think a few things. I think for one, sometimes we have to consider the source with some of these spaces, and recognizing, no offense to Vince McMahon, who is like 77 or something like that, but sometimes the environment that people are in make them feel like certain things are okay to say, and they don't see it as being racially motivated. They see, hey, I'm trying to help you make money. And I think in a case of a Keith Lee, big guy, that they don't think big guys, can be intellectual and intimidating at the same time. I think it's actually interesting when you think about, last week there was the documentary on A&E about Jake the Snake Roberts. And one of the things that made Jake the Snake so significant was the way he spoke, was the fact that he didn't scream and holler like most wrestlers do, but that he came from a very intellectual perspective. And that made him amazing, and he was somebody who didn't have the normal pro wrestling build and things of that nature. I think that the way that Keith Lee speaks distinguishes him from just people in general, no matter the color. With that said, I think that perspective in 2023 is becoming less of the norm and more of the exception. Because these days, across all of the companies, we are seeing a variety of presentations of African-American wrestlers. I know we were talking about, I think last week or the week before, just how many wrestlers we have in these spaces that are doing well, that get to authentically be themselves. Gone are the days where you have to fit a certain profile to be that person in that company. It's actually funny. The video popped up about the road to WrestleMania for WrestleMania 19, the infamous, dangerous road to WrestleMania that involved Triple H and Booker T. And the video of one of those promos came out where, it was being said things like, people like you, don't get to be world champion, and, make me laugh, and those kinds of things, which, you could look at Booker T's face in that moment, and it was just like, I'm really about to be careful with what I'm about to say, because this is going to go off the rails. I think that promo could never be done in 2023 for a lot of reasons. And probably the biggest of which is that those wrestling companies understand that would cost them money. Not necessarily because everybody is super aware of how it feels, right? But even if it's costing them money, it says that our value has increased. So I feel like it is a bit, I'll be Keith Lee-like and say antediluvian, for people to decide that, oh, this is the only way you can speak. Doesn't work that way. And I'm glad that we have enough African-American wrestlers, male and female, who represent so many different spaces of who we are as Black people and are successful, that it proves that you don't have to speak a certain way. You don't have to behave a certain way. You don't have to be, super funny. You don't have to be super angry. You can just be who you are and be successful.
Max, what are your thoughts on this whole thing and how this translates to where we are with Black wrestling right now?
It's one of these situations where it's like they always try to put you in a box, in it. Even when you show like I'm beyond this, you wanted me to do this, I'm able to do this. You want me to do this, I'm able to do this. Now it's like, yeah, you need to go inside this box now, please. With it being said alongside with Vince, I think especially it makes sense maybe with the direction of where they wanted to go with Keith Lee and that Beer Cat character. Maybe they want him to be more what's that word that they use for like that when men was like just molding out of being a gorilla or whatever the case is?
Oh, I got what
I forget the word, but I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, like whatever the word is, like he wanted him to be more like like
prime, almost like primeval, savage,
kind of,
prehistoric,
That's his vision for that Beer Cat character. And thank God he didn't get it, but I get myself. I think it's just trying to put people inside the box, and I would say, even probably white wrestlers suffer this as well. And it's like, everyone thinks they know what's best. Even as fans, we think, oh yeah, if they done this with this character, or they made this change in their look, it put people into a box of maybe what we've seen work before and all of that. Like knowledge the devolution. it's basically that. So yeah, I think in terms of Keith Lee, he has it's a niche in terms of being able to no matter where. I'm not too sure. Is he from Texas?
Yes.
Yeah, but again, he doesn't sound like what I know anyway as a Texan. He speaks with a different accent. His vocabulary is very wide. Like, these are things that we're not used to for maybe a typical black person from Texas. So it's just about trying to put him into a box. But listen, if he's happy where he is now in terms of what he gets to do with his character, which I personally have some questions about, but I don't feel he should feel like caged or anything. It's a problem that black people are going to continue facing. They just have to tackle the problem head on.
I think you're right in saying as well, it's not just a black wrestler thing either. It happens with some white wrestlers and others as well. It's this whole thing of as much as we're in 2023, the height of wrestling was in the 80s and the early 90s, where everyone was a character. We're kind of seeing, we kind of saw that when NXT 2.0 kind of started. It was very character heavy. I call it the character circus. Everyone had some kind of stereotypical character in some sort of way, and you could see that with most of them, it wasn't them being genuinely them, or it was a magnification of them. So, for example, like with the Don, he's Italian, he's a big guy, but he has to do this over the top mobster type guy, and that needs to calm down now. But they're going with it. So it's not just us that has that issue. What I love though is with Keith Lee, for example, or the perfect example really, is in every way you can think, this guy is different.
Yes.
He's a big guy that can fly. He's a black man that speaks, with the intellect that he does. And that's not the norm at all. So I guess he is the perfect person, I guess, to kind of speak on these types of things. And as we were saying last week, we're getting this whole array of black talent that are, genuinely them. No one really is the same, what I mean, and all that kind of thing, which is a great thing. So it is actually, it's not shocking, but it's, I guess, it's hard to hear when you are still seeing that people are being told to fit in a certain box and have to speak a certain way because this is how we did it before. This was the model that we used before and it worked before and blah, blah, blah. But we're seeing people breaking out of those boxes and going a distance with it, which is great to see. I think where we're at now with Mercedes Moné, it's a very similar type of thing. She's in her lane, doing her own thing, and it's absolutely working for her. To keep on with AEW, but to move away just a little bit, we're hearing talks. Mex, I'm going to let you take this one, but we're hearing talks of Jade Cargill possibly going to Japan. Mex, give us the 411 on where this has come from, how this is happening, what's going on with this.
So Brian Danielson.
Don't feel bad.
Brian Danielson was on the Ring Up podcast, and they were talking to him about his experience in AEW so far, and he was talking up and getting him ready for his title match, obviously with MJF, and he's obviously saying the role he's playing as like player coach sort of thing, and the mentoring of the likes of Jade. He's pretty much been mentoring Jade since the day he arrived in AEW, and how the leaps and bounds that she's come on and hoping to get kind of more opportunities to showcase what she's been able to do. He was basically saying that a lot of the stuff we're seeing on TV, like she's able to do more than what we're seeing at this point, and she needs more opportunities to. And then he suggested that he had said to Jade that a quick tour in Japan, maybe about 2 to 3 months, would do you some good. Like it would be good if the opportunity was available. And from what he has said, that Jade was open to doing something like that. Now, obviously, we know AEW they got connects with New Japan. They got connects with Noah as well, don't they? So the route to Japan is there if everyone that's talking about this is serious about it really happening. And then of course we know a certain lady that's kind of put Japanese wrestling on the map right now in terms of the women's stuff, the Joshi stuff, and bringing it over to the West. So you know, it's not to say that, you know, Jade should have a match immediately with Mercedes Moné. The whole point of her going over there is to learn stylistically, kind of, you know, have a set style and learn from what some of those ladies are doing. Because some of those ladies are, you know, from what we see over here in the West, they're absolutely killing it, and they're literally like 20 years old, 21 years old, and, you know, like it's innate for them, sort of thing. So yeah, the idea is obviously to get Jade around some of those kind of talents, learn something, even if it's something that fits her still as a very kind of tall, bigger woman, more athletic woman. Like, yeah, she's open to it. From what Danielson says, he suggested it, she's open to it. So, you know, the way I was kind of booking it in my head, listen, this TBS title thing now, like, I don't think it's adding much to her. She's above the title. She's walking into a venue. She's going to Major League Baseball. She's going to NBA, and people think she is the AEW Women's Champion. So she's above this title right now. Like, I think, you know, they use it as an opportunity to kind of, you know, take the title off her, whoever she loses it to. Like, it makes her just go, you know, vroom, straight to Japan. Let her like sit in a dojo for 2-3 months, learn some things, even if she doesn't like necessarily emerge on any product per se, but it's just that other kind of learning experience, and then comes back, and then it's like, okay, you know, I never thought I would lose and all of this kind of stuff. I was undefeated. My first loss is me losing the title or whatever. So she kind of had to take that time out for herself, however they want to kind of frame it. But yeah, I definitely think, you know, not just Jade, more wrestlers, more young wrestlers should be really taking the opportunity and going and, you know, taking in other cultures, learning different styles. Like, wrestling it's what's the word? It's saturated. There's a lot of wrestlers, so you need to really have a lot of tools in your toolbox to make it, you know, big time. And we know Jade she's more than halfway there to being like a top star. You see what I mean? But this is someone that we've already identified. She actually cares for this business because she had bread before this business. She never come here to make money. So, you know, this is definitely, you know, self-improvement, self-learning, continuous learning. Like, yeah, take the opportunity. If it's really there, something you really want to do, take the opportunity and make it happen.
For sure. I think, yeah, for me, it would definitely be a case of her going to Japan to learn, not to necessarily be thrown onto cards, onto shows, and all the rest of it. It's to take a few months out, learn in the background, do what she's got to do. We've seen the likes of Awesome Kong, Aja Kong, and, you know, even Aisha Raymond, who's from the UK. Make themselves successful as bigger black females in Japan. Gerard, how would you see Jade kind of, not necessarily booked, but kind of, you know, how would she evolve in that type of space in Japan, along with these Joshis who, as Mick said, just have this innate ability from a very early stage? How do you see Jade then kind of framing herself and coming out of it?
I think it would be game changing for her. For instance, you know, one of the things that made the Eddie Guerreros so amazing and made, you know, the Chris Jericho's so amazing is that they host an amalgamation of styles because they traveled in all of these different places. The time they spent in Mexico, the time they spent in Canada, the time they spent in Japan, you know, bringing all of those things to American pro wrestling made them stand out, made them different. I think part of the challenge that Jade has and several other newer stars that are right now in a space like AEW is that they don't have regular house shows, which obviously improves your reps. And even though some folks in AEW are still allowed to work in the indies, folks like Jade are not. And she could really benefit from being in these other territories that would teach her different styles. So I know you guys were saying, you know, have her in the dojo and then let her come back. I say give her 6 months to a year. let her perform in front of those Japanese audiences, because as the world saw when Mercedes debuted, the Japanese audience responds differently. And when you have to perform in front of an audience that responds differently, you end up having to learn quickly, okay, what works, what doesn't work, how do I control this crowd, you know? And so if they're not moved by the things that an American crowd would be moved by, well, then what do I move by? What moves them here? And then how can I take this and make me different in America? So I think, you know, she needs the time to hang in Stardom, you know, to hang in All Japan, to hang in these places that specialize in women's wrestling, you know, that have different styles, you know, to pick up on her speed. She's a former basketball player, so she knows what to do from a speed perspective. She's agile, you know, she's all of these things that, you know, someone that's just muscular is not expected to be. So much like we were talking about Keith Lee's ability to talk and his ability to flip and be incredibly agile make him very different as a big man. He's not just stand around and be strong. No, I'm going to be agile. I can do, you know, Hurricane Run off the top rope. I can do, you know, a Spanish fly, right? So now is the question, what can she grab? I'd love to see her in Mexico. You know, what can she learn from those places that she can bring back to AEW? Because here's the thing, nobody would then have that combination of look and skill set that she has. That would make her something, because then you couldn't figure her out. She could come at you 5 different ways and have 5 completely different matches, and now she's an anomaly. She's a mystery, and now you really can't beat her. So I think it'd be amazing for her to take 6 months. You know, the folks from Japan will send their people to America, you know, to kind of go and work and then come back to Japan, and they come back like new money. You know, it works the opposite way as well. Man, her in Australia, like, let her do a world tour, send cameras with her, let them film this stuff, but don't let it get released. Don't let it get released. And then when she comes back, now we've got these videos, and now we start seeing this stuff unfold, and people are like, I didn't know she could do that. I didn't know. And it lets people miss her. If they miss her and she comes back, please, it's a wrap.
I think there's a lot there. The only thing I'd add is that obviously she's a mother, so I don't know how much time she could really take, you know, away from the States, whether they put the daughter in the international school, wherever they go, you know, whatever the case is. I don't know. I mean, it's an option, but it's, you know, like we're saying, the learning tree she can sit under wherever she lands is invaluable.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm loving that idea of you know, her going away, us, you know, and then, you know, them filming her, and then when she comes back, and you know, showing the vignettes and the videos and stuff. Jade, if you're watching, WrstlXtra production team over right here. Okay, boom. That's all I'm saying. We got Speaking of our females, I just want to touch on this one real quick. You know, this is something we probably even could have started the show on, but it's a running theme that's been going on for almost a year now. Almost a year. But it seems as though we kind of have a much clearer answer to the question of what is next for Naomi, or much more specifically, is Naomi coming back to WWE? Gerard, you take this. What have we seen in the last few days? The news that we're hearing, to give us our answer to that question.
So it's been very, very interesting. Over the weekend, Mercedes Moné and Trinity found themselves at the Emerald City Comic-Con, and they were taking pictures together, and they were, you know, meeting fans and things of this nature. And again, it's all super interesting because for a minute, it seemed like Trinity was going full-scale model. We weren't seeing her around wrestling events or things like that. So this Comic-Con was special. Of course, you had Mercedes posing with the IWGP Women's World Championship, which that's an image we've never seen before. You know, so that is just mind-blowing. that she's able to do that. And then you have Trinity again. Obviously, people love her. Well, the news has come out that Trinity will be at WrestleCon on March the 30th, or is it the 31st? I think it's the 30th or 31st. 31st. 30. That's right, 31st, because it's Friday. It's the day before WrestleMania. Same day as SmackDown is happening. And it's interesting because people are trying to read the tea leaves. Does this mean she's coming back to WWE or not? Because normally the WWE doesn't allow their folks on an independent spot like WrestleCon. However, in comma to this is the current WWE Women's Tag Team Champion Lita is also scheduled to be at WrestleCon. So this is supposed to be like a one show only deal that she will be at, that Trinity will be at. And now it's got everybody asking the question, are you going to be in LA that close to WrestleMania and not show your face? Or will you just hang backstage with your husband and the rest of your bloodline family? What will you do? That's the question.
So there is no clear answer whatsoever.
No,
she's
clear as
done.
mud.
She's
Clear
done.
as mud.
I think she's done. I think we saw the handle change as well on social media,
Yes.
which has been the biggest clue in a lot of these cages that these people are done. But what really kind of confuses me is that about 2 weeks ago we saw I can't remember the platform, but Ariana Andrews, what was her WWE name again?
Cameron.
That's it. She was saying that, I think someone was asking her about, being tag champs with Naomi, women's tag champs, and she said, look, right now, like, sis is injured, she's recovering from a shoulder injury. I don't want to talk for her, but once she's back, etc. But that clearly doesn't look like it's going to materialize anyway. But Cameron featured in the Royal Rumble, and we ain't seen her since. So I think it's done, man. I think it is done. She's over. She's moving on to pastures new. Maybe milk this wrestling bag as much as she can in terms of WrestleCon and other bits and bobs like that, and then moves on to something else maybe.
I think the thing for me, Gerard mentioned Lita also being on WrestleCon. Of course, Lita right now is one half of the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. But also as well at the same time, let's be very real, she's probably still on a Legends contract.
Sure.
So her being at WrestleCon isn't necessarily big news in that sense. If that was a Becky Lynch or a Bayley, it would make me think a little bit different in terms of then what the conclusion to what Naomi's going to be doing or whether she's returning or not. For me, I'm with Mex on this. I think she's done. I think she's absolutely done. The question still is then what does she do? Where does she appear? Is she going to go to Japan? Blah blah blah. Or the rest of it. She has options which we know of already. But I think for me this is it. It's like we were saying, a few weeks back after the Royal Rumble, and the pay-per-view before that, and all the waiting for her to come out. She doesn't come out. Waiting for it to come out the next one. She doesn't come out. War Games didn't come out. Royal Rumble didn't come out. I think as that time carried, I think we knew from Royal Rumble that this was over. Yeah. And for me, this whole WrestleCon thing, it doesn't happen. No one in WWE who's on a full-time contract or whatever else turns up at WrestleCon. You might see a Ron Simmons, maybe. You might see a Teddy Long. And you might see them on special episodes of Raw, but that's it. You know what I mean? So unless we're going to be seeing Naomi on special episodes of Raw, I hope to God never. I don't see her returning to WWE, and that's not a bad thing. I'm sure she'll probably she'll be in LA the same weekend as Mania. But let's not get our hopes up and expect her to come out and save Bianca Belair, for example, against Asuka or anything like that. It's just not. Or she's gonna be the one to low blow Sami Zayn during some bloodline match or whatever. It's not happening. Don't get excited. It's not happening. It's not happening.
Here's what I will say. What I will say is, if it does happen, it'll knock everybody's socks off.
Very true.
Because I think we all are at the space where we're like, let's just put our hopes away and recognize she's coming to get a bag, and she can get that bag, and that'll be cool. And it'll be the closest thing to WWE she's done since she's left, since they're literally in the same city. The other thing I think, though, is Triple H. It's his first WrestleMania. It's the biggest of all time. All of these seats are sold. He loves giving us something to talk about. And a good surprise at WrestleMania always goes far.
Yep.
So Trinity somehow showing up. I don't even know the scenario at this point that would make the most sense for her to show up. But if she shows up in a bloodline space, for instance, because in my head, I actually was thinking today, who else could show up and join the bloodline at this point? And there are still options out there. There are still plenty of options in terms of other members of the family who are in other wrestling companies that could show up that we'd all go, oh my God, this is never going to end.
Lord knows I've prayed
Jacob Fatu.
That's who I'm looking for.
Woo!
That's who I'm looking
Lord
for.
knows I've prayed for that.
Listen, and here's the thing. Should he show up? Again, like, to me, I'm thinking, what can Triple H do that will surprise us all, that will give us moments, because that's what WWE is great for. As much as fans love matches, we love moments. And so I'll just say this. I'm not a betting man, but I'm not completely ruling a Trinity return off the table because we've been trolled before. Ask the Hardys.
True.
Very true. Very
same
true.
weekend, same things.
Yeah. We had the big surprise with Cody as well.
That's right.
We kind of had a decent idea it was going to happen, but we never actually thought it would actually happen.
Right.
And
we're not going to believe it till we see it. And when we heard the music, we lost it. So those kinds of moments, which we still talk about, he's going to see to it that we have them. Will Trinity be involved in one of them? That's the question.
It's a possibility, but I think the percentages are very low now than what we thought it was, maybe just at the start of the year.
For sure.
Basically.
Which could make it the right time.
Before we give the go home cue and get out of here, I've got a grievance to raise.
Oh,
we're 3 weeks out from WrestleMania. We're 3 Monday Night Raws.
Yes.
This Bianca Belair and Asuka stuff has been nonsense. It has been a complete and utter nonsense. She came out, she vomited blue in her mouth. Bianca was scared. That was week 1. Week 2, I don't even think either of them were on the show. Week 3, we saw what happened last week. Asuka struggled to win against Carmella. Struggled to win against Carmella. Someone that just won Elimination Chamber. Someone that's come back as basically the devil. And Bianca Belair then gets pushed over by Carmella and then nothing. Has a match with Carmella this week. Asuka comes out, makes a save, and they're both smiling at each other. This is nonsense.
You know what's funny? When I saw them smiling at each other, the first person I thought of was Mix.
Yes.
Listen, I'm giving them one more chance next week.
Yes.
I'm going to go on YouTube and I'm going to absolutely cook this nonsense because this isn't it. Like, this is someone you've kept as champion for a whole year. Like, and then someone that you're basically rebranding and showing us, this person is her. Like, this is who is really meant to be. Like, I don't know what Triple H is doing because in other times they've booked Bianca Belair and Asuka separately much better than this. This ain't on. Next week, I'll give it one more chance. I swear down. Next week, I'm gonna go ham.
I can't wait.
3 weeks is all they have now. Like,
wow.
It's worrying, to be honest. That smile. It's worrying, to be honest, as to where this is going or what's going to happen over these next 3 weeks in order to make me feel excited by the match. On paper, it's going to be a good match or whatever else, but in the background, the story leading up to it, rather, I'm not necessarily excited or worried in a way of the outcome. Whoever wins.
Yeah.
It just
but right now,
it's gonna win.
This is worse than Bianca and Alexa Bliss. There was actually something there. Like they tried to do something with the hokey pokey stuff, and they tried to do something. Right, they're not doing nothing here.
And I said that when we first knew that Asuka was going to face, or before Elimination Chamber, I said if it's Asuka, let's hope it's a more serious version of what happened with Alexa Bliss, because that went into some next kind of comedic. Yeah,
there's still time, but
there is still time.
There's still time.
Right now, gosh,
there's still time.
Woo! Wow. And on that note, guys.
On that note.
You have been watching WrstlXtra. You are watching on the WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel. Follow Mex on Instagram, WrestleManiac.uk, and on Twitter, WrestleManiac UK. Also, don't forget to click and like WrestleManiac UK on YouTube. Click the notification bell just so you can get that video where Mex is going to cuss out Triple H next week.
It's coming.
You can also follow this guy below me, which is Gerard Bonner, on the Faction Show, Bonafide on all platforms, and also follow him everywhere else. He turns up WWT Live, Southern Honor Wrestling, and all the rest of them. I can't remember them all.
Yes.
As every single week. Follow me, A Dazzle on Black Wrestling Alliance on Instagram, BWA Dazzle on Twitter. Guys, this has been our show. Mex is going to get a cold drink and cool himself down. And we will see you again next time. See you later, guys.
See you later.